Okay, the time is now, are we ready?
Recording in progress.
Time is now 7 o'clock, and we're going to call tonight's meeting of the Select Board to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, on Facebook Live, on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken up as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. So we're going to start tonight with public comments, and I have one. So let's see. I was planning on writing these, but instead I'm just going to go off my notes. There aren't that many. So there's three things actually that I wanted to bring up. So the first is we understand that there was recently a vote with the Water District. And many residents in town have expressed concerns on social media, and we've also received some emails that express some concerns about the way that process was handled. So I just want to clarify for many residents at home what I've said in my responses to some residents who've reached out to the Select Board, is that the Water District was created by a special act of the state legislature. Unlike everything else that we interact with in Lunenburg, for the most part, it is not part of the town government. So it is not underneath the Select Board in any kind of way. It is not otherwise underneath the town in any other kind of way. So the Water District has its own elections, and the members who can vote are members who are in the service area. The district has its own moderator, has its own funding, has its own budget, and all of that is separate from the town. So again, they do have to follow the open meeting law types things that we all have to follow, but they are technically a separate entity. And so concerns about process should be directed towards the Water District, and the alternative for that would be the Secretary of the State of the Commonwealth. The second thing I wanted to mention was about I recently responded to a post on social media, and I don't typically respond or even look at what's mostly in the social media stuff, but I wanted to comment just on taxes for a moment, because many residents received their tax bills recently. The town goes through its budgeting process every year. It starts in about January for the town manager. She says, it starts like now. And in January, the town manager, the capital planning committee has already been meeting to go over capital planning projects. And in the beginning of January, the town manager meets with the Select Board and provides us with a proposed budget. Following that, there's a series of meetings that happen all throughout the spring with the Finance Committee, in which there's a lot of review of that budget. So anyone in the public who's interested in being a part of that process, I encourage you to just follow along starting in January time period. Finance Committee meetings as well as Select Board meetings, and that would be a good opportunity. One of the things that I think we have to think about, and this is my own opinion here, I think part of our responsibility is making sure that we are being reasonable, and we know that the town manager is really good with taxes, but they do go up, and they do go up every single year. And part of that, and a big chunk of these of that 2.5%, are the staff increases that go up generally about 2% a year. And so, we are paying, higher energy costs, we are paying higher healthcare costs, and staffing costs do go up on an annual basis. So, that accounts for a pretty decent chunk of the tax increases. But I want to comment as well personally that, I think that one of the measures of success in a community is understanding that most people who own their homes here in Lunenburg are, typically only live here for about 10 years, as we've discussed in a previous meeting. And there are many people who choose to be here, myself included, who want to be here for the rest of our natural lives. And so the select board is working on a plan to do some form of senior tax relief to account for those who make the decision to invest in Lunenburg, who want to remain here. That there is I think we do have a responsibility to consider those individuals and ensure that we have a fairer system for them to ensure that they can remain here in retirement. But for the rest of the population, Lunenburg is a community, a home is an investment. And for most people, it's the largest investment you can make. Most people who've sold their homes in the last 5 years, well, everyone who's living here has seen a substantial increase in value over the last 5 years. But, I have some friends who've sold homes in Lunenburg. They've doubled their money in 5 years, doubled their income. And so, one of the values, and I mention this just to note that, we have never received a complaint from someone who sold their home who said the town didn't do enough to make sure that their homes would have a good value. And so I think that although taxes, are related to property value, that, I'm saying this to note that although many people, myself included, are looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity in their homes and that you can't touch, but that is one of the values of the general market, but it's also one of the values that I think that we all together provide to the residents. So I just wanted to comment on that. Again, none of us enjoy paying taxes, but I just want to put that in a little different context. And my third comment this evening is about Veterans Day. The town has a Memorial Day service. We don't have a Veterans Day service. And every Veterans Day, veterans are for the living. It's for those who've served, and we have people in the room, myself included, who've served. Mr. Dwyer, want to note Mr. Gamble, Chief Gamble, who've served in the armed forces. So Veterans Day is for those who've served, who've made that sacrifice. And the biggest thing that we can offer anyone is our time. And so I encourage you, if you're at home and you have family members or friends who are veterans, to consider, reaching out to them on Veterans Day. Consider spending some time with them. Those things go a really long way. And that is all I have for public comments, so thank you for that. Any public comments from the board this evening?
I have none.
I'll make up for it. I also have three things I want to say. So first of all, yesterday, Mr. Franco and the town manager were able to participate and join in at the Volunteer Appreciation Day at the Eagle House that was sponsored by Senator Cronin and Representative Kushmarek, where they presented the check of $100,000 in funding for the ADA patio project that's planned at the Eagle House. So I want to thank all of the people who attended, Senator Cronin, Representative Kushmarek, our town manager, and all the town officials who were there. And most importantly, the day was for the many volunteers who help the Council on Aging do their good work there. And a couple of people were acknowledged with awards there for all their times of service and volunteerism. Volunteerism at the Council on Aging at the Eagle House is a large part of what makes it work. That's true of other sections of the town too, but yesterday it was about the Eagle House and the seniors, so I want to thank everybody who came out to that, and a special congratulations to the volunteers themselves. Second, I was honored enough to be able to go to a memorial service for a citizen who had passed away. His name was John Mayle. He was a longtime resident of Lunenburg, wasn't born here, but was a longtime resident and truly involved in many aspects of the town, both in social ways. I think he was involved with Hickory Hills back in the days when I think it became a homeowners association early on, and he and his wife were involved there. But I got to know him when he served his time on the FinCom, and he was the chair when I first joined the Finance Committee. And he really was like kind of a mentor to me and taught me a lot of principles that really have carried me through all those years. And to see the service and the people speaking on his behalf, it was really a wonderful ceremony for a really special person. Great sense of humor, great dedication, great family person. So I just want to acknowledge him. And then the last comment is about what the chair spoke about. I actually was in attendance at the Water District meeting, and my comments I make here, not because I think the town can do anything, but on the same principle that brought the water commissioners here and the water superintendent here to present their project because they know that we have a larger audience and we reach a lot more people on the airwaves. I'm going to say what I say specifically for those reasons. The meeting that night was basically divided into two halves. The first half was the discussion around the single article of the special meeting they called regarding the study for treatment of the well at Hickory Hills. They had presented here to the board asking or looking for the board's support for that. That discussion went very well, and people presented both sides of the argument and back and forth. However, at the point when it came to vote, and I have no other way of saying this but with the following words, it devolved into absolute chaos. It really was a debacle of how not to run a meeting. And because of that, I believe there was a lot of confidence lost by the voters of the district in the result. First of all, it was a very close, to say it was close, there were two votes, two counts, I should say. One was tied at 77 to 77. Then there was a whole discrepancy about, well, some people weren't there, some people were in using the restroom, some people thought it was over, so they left. So they asked for a recount, and that came out to 79, 77. But all around, there was no order to this. There was mulling around, and so they really lost an opportunity to gain the confidence of the people. Now, post that meeting, it was discovered that at least one person, there were 60 people left off the rolls of potential voters, and one person at least showed up and could not vote at that meeting. So there was that on top of this, and therefore, if government, regardless of whether it's the town or the water district or any entity, if it gets its power from the consent of the people being governed and the people taking the votes, and it really relies on the confidence that those votes are taken and are fair, I would say that that meeting did not reach that hurdle, did not overcome that hurdle. And while I have no power over what they do, I can say from an elected official in the town that I would highly recommend that they recall that meeting and prepare for the number of people that would show up and have counting mechanisms in place to gain or regain the confidence of the people who were there that the vote was actually accurate. Again, I have no influence over them except as one member. I am a voter in the water district, being a water district user. But it was clear, and anybody who saw the videotape knows what I'm talking about. I'm not even referencing the commentary on the hot mic. I'm just talking about the process of the meeting was really not something that should be looked at as any kind of standard that we should be reaching for. We really fell well below that. And I would urge the water commissioners and anybody who feels similarly to these comments that they should really ask for a new meeting with the same article to debate this again, and where people can feel confident in their votes, and that the people who want to vote could vote, and they're on the rolls. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and here. Any additional comments from the town manager?
Quickly, just to add on to Selectman Alonso's about the event yesterday, the volunteer appreciation event. I was in attendance. It was a fabulous event, sponsored by Senator Cronin and the Eagle House supporters for the breakfast. And the recognition was for 40 volunteers who donated 1,183 hours, well, 1,183.25 hours of their time in the last year. So like they said, it helps out a lot for everything that needs to get done there. So I also want to extend my gratitude to all the people that volunteer. The other event I attended at the Senior Center was on Monday, October 24th. It was the annual high tea that was started by Sarah Grant in 2014. So she was the one who initiated it. She decorated all the tables for the first 2 years of the event, and if you haven't gone, you should go. It's a great event. A lot of time planning, preparation for the food, the donations, and everything went into it. So thank you to everyone who put that event together. They raised $2,756 for the Council on Aging gift fund.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
At the risk of wearing out my public comment welcome, I did want to make one more thanks. I want to thank everybody who was involved in homecoming this past Saturday. First of all, it was an absolutely glorious day, weather-wise, and all the classes did great floats, and then all the people who marched in the parade, and the Boys and Girls Club with their shrieks and creaks. It really was an overall success. I don't know the result of the football game. Does anyone know the result of the football game?
They won.
All right. All right. So there you go. So it was a great day all around. I want to thank everybody who puts all the effort into doing that, and it really was a fun community event.
Thank you. All right, are there any public comments this evening from the public? Mr. McDonald?
You can tell I'm getting old. I just signed up for my Social Security.
Large type, yeah.
And on top of that, I got to wear my glasses. Good evening, Board. My name is Dave McDonald, 155 Island Road, Hickory Hills. And I put this letter together, my wife and I, and it's on Facebook and social media. But it's to the residents of Lunenburg. By now, I'm sure that you've heard about the very disappointing water district meeting last Wednesday night. My wife Betty and I would like to thank Paula Bertram for her efforts on working with the Water District for the last year, along with the Hickory Hill Homeowners Board of Directors and its president, John Fortune. During that time, Hickory Hills Association and Water District have been working on an agreement to go ahead and do the requesting testing on the Hickory Hills well. What was discussed during those meetings was supposed to be included in the Water District's warrant article. That was what Paula Bertram was trying to get amended into the article. Just putting that into the article, what the Water District had already said they would do. When her motion to amend was ruled out of order, Ms. Bertram became very upset. And we don't blame her because the Water District did not keep their word. For those of you who have seen the meeting either in person or on YouTube, the Water Commission has shown nothing but disrespect to the speakers who came up and voiced their concerns. Also, with the Water District public meeting, it was run inadequate information, inadequate seating, inadequate sound system, no rules, no way to effectively vote. These conditions, my wife and I find unacceptable. There was no planning for this meeting, no way to vote unless you stand up against a wall, no way to express your feelings except to get ridiculed. This has to stop somewhere. There seems to be no understanding on how to run a meeting, no understanding on customer service. To me, I've been in my business for 35 years, and I have never, ever witnessed anything like this before. The topic of the meeting aside, the procedures alone were unacceptable. As far as the actual substance of the meeting, I have one major problem with that evening. Why would we vote on spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on a contract that we've never even seen, or even a handout at the meeting on what to expect? This is not the way to conduct business. The water and district commissioners should be ashamed of themselves and even asking for that kind of money without a scope of a written contract that can be read or reviewed by the voters. I hope this alone scares you, because it scares me. Again, this is not the way to do business. The conduct of the meeting, the conduct of the water commissioners has unfortunately cost trust in significant numbers of voters, members in the Lunenburg Water District. It will now take so much work to gain that trust back. I hope those in charge are up to the task and are willing to demonstrate that. Thank you from my wife and myself. The last comment I have is, I've lived on Hickory Hills now for 22 years. I grew up in Fitchburg. I kind of grew up in the streets. And I've never seen anything what I saw. And it wasn't the procedure. It was the disrespect. The disrespect for a member who worked in this town, who I've worked with for almost 19 years, and that's Paula Bertram. She has given more to this town, more to Hickory Hills, more to the children, more to the environment than anybody I know. And I just want Paula to know that Betty and I will stand with her through this. She's a great lady, and she's done a lot for this town. And I hope the town people don't forget that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Do we have any other public comments this evening? Any online?
No.
All right. So next, we're going to go to our appointment, and this is always a good one every year to help out our community. So this is a 7:10 appointment with the Salvation Army Toll Booth fundraiser, request for December the 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I take it this is Lynette and Mr. McDonald? Well, I should have said Ms. Valentine and Mr. McDonald. Oh, congratulations.
Different hat. Are you gonna, okay. I guess the proper thing would be to ask permission to have our boot drive in Lunenburg, December 10th. Coming into Lunenburg is always a joy for me. I love the town. I like how everybody supports it. It's fun, the people driving by, the generosity. But what stands behind why? Why do we do this? And it came out last year was very difficult. We weren't certain what was going to happen. Are we going to hit our goal coming out of COVID? This year is the year that I'm more worried about because we're seeing a whole new clientele. We started our application process in August. We're 2 months into taking applications for Christmas and Angels for the kids. I'm nervous about hitting our goal, and we're just hoping that you can extend that approval for us to be in the street to do the boot drive so that we can hit our goal and take care of these families that are in need. It's not just Christmas. It's the whole year. We help with rent. We help with utilities. We give kids summer fun programs. We take them on adventures. We're doing a Bridging the Gap program that helps children that are getting in trouble and have nowhere to go. And statistically speaking, 96% that come through our program never reoffend. So those are wonderful things that we want to keep going and keep expressing to the community that we're here to make a difference. And being allowed to stay on the boot drive would be an absolute blessing.
Again, Dave McDonald, Island Road, and also the lead director of the EDS system for Central Mass. I just want to say a couple things that all you know is. If you haven't, you will, because we're going to be asking for stuff from the people of town. But over the last 2 years, it's been very tough, not only for our first responders, but for the Salvation Army. We still responded to every fire. We still responded to every unrest, civil actions that were going on, either through protests or whatever. We went to Boston Sparks. We worked with Boston Sparks out in Boston for fires in Lunenburg. Just to give you an example, we worked with the Senior Center. We worked with the Lunenburg Lions. We worked with Pam Porter on coats. We plan on doing all those again this year. It takes time and energy, and I'll be honest with you, the last 2 years knocked the hell out of us because we're out there every day. And it was, I met the commissioner of the fire department in Boston this past May, and he was amazed of what the Salvation Army does for them and for the local police, but most of all, the kids and the families. A lot of people forget about the locked in with schools. I know, I'm looking at you because you're on the school committee, and these kids were locked in the whole time. They still needed to eat. They still needed to have interaction. We were there. So in return, we're going to be doing a boot drive on December 10th. It's going to be from 10 to 2. And we're going to do it at 2 locations. We do have a rain date because we always forget to do that. So the rain date would be the following week. The other thing is, I know, Mr. Alonso, last year when you were the chair, we talked about filling out those forms. Salvation Army, we get our volunteers, and they usually show up that day. Now, we have our core of volunteers, but if we can just let us know some of those applications come in after the boot drive. Is that a problem for the town? Or I can make up names, I don't want to do that. So we try to give accurate names to submit. And we talked about that before.
We did talk about changing the policy that if people in an organization like the Salvation Army or any organization of that size that has their own insurance, that we would agree that they could be covered under those insurance. We haven't made the policy change, and we probably should because of exactly this. They don't know how many people are going to show up until that day because they have feelers out all over, and it depends on weather. So some people could commit to the 10th, and if they have a rain date, then they may not be able to show on the 17th, and they can't get them these forms. So I hope there's a way that we can do this.
Well, we'll make an effort, but after, and if those of you who work the boot drives know, you fill out the form at the canteen. But if we can submit them a couple of days or that following Monday, that would work out for us too. So either way, I'll leave it up to you guys to figure that out. And the last thing we have is of course, the program that I'm there to, which is the Angel program. The Angel program will give kids a toy for holidays. And I say this every year to the boards here, that I've never seen a year like last year. I've never seen a year like last year. Well, I can tell you this year is going to be a hell doozy, because we've already seen it now with the high increase in oil, which takes effect today, with the increase of turkeys, the increase in cost of turkeys. I mean, we're trying to get birds now, and birds are, we can't go in like we did in years. The stores won't let us back them up, so we have to do a boot drive next weekend just to buy the turkeys for Thanksgiving. And we have a lot of agencies working with us that we support. So I think we're looking for almost 400 turkeys over between now and Thanksgiving. So if anybody wants to donate a bird, we'll take it this year, because it's just, I think birds right now, they're on sale for 89 cents, but they were $2.50 last week. And Market Basket already told us that they can't give bulk orders.
No, we can't do bulk orders, we have to get 2 at a time. So we're gonna make a lot of trips into Market Basket. So that came across today, but we're working on avenues. I've made some phone calls. We're trying to be able to get 40 at a time, which would make it a little easier, but, it's just a lot of behind-the-scenes work that wasn't there last year because of the situations this year. And what I've noticed is the increase of the birds and the budgeting. So, we want Thanksgiving to happen like we always do. I told my staff today, we're going to pluck away, we're going to do this. We are going to fill 250 baskets.
Get that
Definitely.
pluck away. I thought that was
I know, I
good.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was good.
But anyway, so we're going to just keep moving on forward and just know that it's going to happen.
So the Christmas angels, did you bring the angels tonight?
Yes, I already gave you
Okay.
that.
So we have our angel tree set up at the town hall right over here.
Yes.
We're also going to be having some around town. And as always, we're going to have the boot drive with the mayors. So we already have the Leominster and Fitchburg mayor. So if you want to be ringing the bell for 1 hour, not ringing the bell, but holding a bucket in the center for 1 hour, it's a challenge. Mr. Alonso, you won actually, you killed it last year. And that's good. But anyways, if you want to do it, it'll be 1 hour. I think it was 10 to 11 would be the actual time if you want to hold a bucket. And if you can't, because I know you're a busy guy, if you want to pass that along to somebody else, that would be good. And as far as everyone else, thank you, Todd, Heather, Tom, for working our drives in the past. Lou, I don't think you ever have, so maybe this year you might be able to come out and say hi. If not, you can always ring the bell at Walmart. We're always looking for
Yeah, that's me.
So that's about what we've been doing for the last year, and like I said, it's going to be a tough one. With your help and the citizens of Lunenburg, I'm sure we can get through this. But again, from the bottom of our hearts, God bless you guys for doing what you do. And we're here for questions if you want to.
All right, so to Heather, is the application in order as you see it?
Yes.
All right, are there any, this is a pretty straightforward, and I think that, I'm in agreement with the request for them to be able to provide those liability waivers after the fact. I know I've worked a couple of different toll booth events and understand that, people's schedules change and you don't always know who's going to show up. So I don't have a conflict with that, but I want to provide the board the opportunity to ask any questions or comments.
No questions, and of course, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with the Salvation Army in these boot drives, and I know that in our household, my wife does a lot of the Angel program as well, so I wanted them to continue the good work. I won't spend much time, because they basically said it all, and I support everything that they're doing, especially in tough times. And you're right, with the heating and the utilities, it's going to be tough for a lot of people, especially people on fixed incomes this year, so.
Before I forget, we are here to help too. So if a senior has a problem paying their rent or paying for fuel, give us a call. And this is where you see the number right here on the tape version, the phone number. Just call right here. Call the Salvation Army. Sorry.
I have no questions, but thank you for the continued valuable work that you do.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds, is there any other comments or questions?
No, I just hope it's warmer than the year that I lived.
We're counting on you
It was
again to work.
Very
Bloomberg.
cold, yeah, I'll work with it.
I miss working with you. I mean, you're a riot.
And the second location is at CVS, right?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would make a motion that if you are accepting motions, I'd make a motion that we approve the toll booth fundraiser request from the Salvation Army for December 10th with a rain date on December 17th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., both at the CVS Whalum Road location and the Town Center location.
Second.
All right. Any additional discussion? I should have asked a question before we got to the motion. So you mentioned about the angels. Is there a way for people to like buy items on Amazon and have them sent directly somewhere?
There is. If they want to buy an angel or a gift, they can get it and they can send it to our address on Water Street. We could have a drop-off maybe here local if they want to do that. We can talk about it. And just so you know, our distribution site is in Lunenburg this year, so that's kind of exciting.
All right, good. 'Cause I know, sometimes, when people shop, it's maybe easier for them just to order it and have it sent
Yeah,
somewhere.
but we can have it sent to 739 Water Street in Fitchburg.
All right, so 739 Water Street in Fitchburg.
Yep.
We get questioned a lot too about what can I do to help, where people can't really go to the drive or anything. But we have a lot of people that pick up families. They adopt a family, and you can adopt the whole family. You'll get a name. In fact, the school does that a lot. They'll
They
adopt a
call us.
family, Lunenburg High School. So if you want to adopt a family at home, call Lynette. She'll give you the name of the family, and you take care of the whole thing. I mean, you can get a Santa. If you need a Santa, let me know. But you can get a Santa. You can go to the house. You can do as much as you want or as little as you want. But the bottom line I care about is making sure the family has a good holiday. So however you want to do it is great. And just for our information, here's our phone number if you want
Oh, you want me to say the phone number?
to, yeah, we always forget the phone number.
978-342-3300, 978-342-3300.
Now you're definitely a commercial.
I know, right?
All right.
I know, I feel
So
like
we
that.
got your address here, 739 Water Street in Fitchburg, and then we got the phone number 978-342-3300. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All right, it passes. Congratulations, and we'll see you on the 10th.
Is I want to be the first to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come back when it's more appropriate.
I'm sorry, just, happy holidays.
No. It's still, come back when it's more appropriate, like after Thanksgiving.
All right. So next on our agenda this evening, we have a public hearing, and this is a continued public hearing. Do we have a public hearing notice? This is a continued public hearing for say again?
It's in
All
the
right.
original
Okay.
one.
And it's, all right, so we're going to continue the public hearing. Let me pause for a second on the technical thing. Do we need to read the public hearing notice? Okay. All right, so we are going to open the public hearing that was continued from our last meeting. And so we're going to open this public hearing now at 7:32 p.m. And this is for alteration of premises to alcohol license for Il Forno Lunenburg Bar Incorporated at 494 Electric Avenue. Mr. Muhammad, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, just stating your name and business address, although I just read it. And you have an update for us, so if you just want to go ahead and proceed with your update.
Good evening to every one of you. My name is Mike Muhammad. I'm the owner of a Forno restaurant at 494 Electric Avenue, Lunenburg, Mass. I believe my bookkeeper sent over to the board all the information you requested last time I was here. So hopefully it's sufficient enough and satisfactory to you to feed the purpose of what we're here for.
Right. I'm just trying to pull it up. All right, so we do have this in our drive. It's identified as Il Forno Lunenburg Selectmen 2022. Are you able to share this on Zoom as well for those at home? All right, I'll open to the board for questions or comments.
Mr. Chair, I reviewed the additional information and shows the new plan layout of the building. It's much more clear, and they also have an elevation view. It looks like his architect provided an elevation view of the building as well. It seems pretty straightforward.
All right.
Yeah, I'll add to that too. While I was okay with it last time, I certainly saw the point of having the extra materials, and that's great. And I much more appreciate now how you're dissuading people from going out those garage doors so that there's more of a controlled flow of traffic in and out. So that's satisfactory to me.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I don't get a chance to say this often because usually I speak before Mr. Franco, but I concur with Mr. Franco. I appreciate you submitting all the extra
Thank you, sir.
material. I think it makes it a lot clearer about what we are, presumably accepting, so.
Yeah, thank you. This was a quick turnaround on your part. You got this over to us pretty quick after the last meeting. It's a lot clearer. I know that I had several concerns about what that plan depicted, but I think this gives us a really clear understanding of what it is that you're trying to do, how the egress and will work here, what barriers you have that you're going to be implementing to control access in and out of the property. So it's really straightforward.
Thank you, sir.
So I don't have any concerns either with what has been presented. Now, we do understand that this structure has not been built, nor is there a permit to build it, that part of this is you're getting ahead of the process, that the state's we're expecting there to be a flood of requests that come in, and that the process for approval is going to be elongated. And so my understanding is you're looking to kind of be on the front end of that, so that way you're not stuck in the madness come April when the COVID requirements go away.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also just making sure whatever I'm going forward with is going to be doable. So once I have the okay from you, I'm sure we got to go to the next step, but I just doing it step at a time. The first most important thing, we get your approval, and we'll go forward from here.
All right. So the verbiage for us tonight and I'm looking to Tom as former chair and the town manager. So he does not currently have this. So is our approval tonight for him to, how do we word this?
Oh, I can.
It's
I
an
can make a-
alteration of license, so, yeah.
Right, I mean, I can make the motion that, and I was going to make the motion such that it's contingent upon this being built without any significant or substantial changes from what he presented. That's what I would say. That means that if this is the plan and all of a sudden we're looking at a totally different plan, then that would cause a rehearing. But if he builds this, what he's showing,
Yeah.
then we can build it with that. I mean, Madam Town Manager, do you have would that be sufficient coverage for us? To approve something in advance without it being built?
So I think once the application is submitted to ABCC, they're going to do their own review, and depending on what their review is, they approve the license, but it comes back to the board for final sign-off. So I think there'd be an opportunity if there were changes.
Well, the next process is going to be the building departments. The building department have to approve the plan and the blueprints and the building and everything else. So it's just one step into the right directions before we continue on and we go put it out to bid, and because already get some bids and it's very, very expensive. Before I go forward, I want to make sure whatever we're going forward, whether in the money we're spending, it's got to be okay with you to approve it.
Right.
And to go on the right directions first before I go ahead and build a building and come to me and tell me no, it's not going to happen.
I
So I
understand.
make sure.
I understand what you're
Yes.
asking, and that's why I said what my motion will be when I make the motion is that I'll make the motion that we approve this as long as the plans you've given us are what you build.
Of course.
So we don't want you're going to show us
Okay.
this and all of a sudden you build something else, and
We're
that's
not
what
gonna-
we
we're
want to
not
avoid.
gonna
I don't
change
think
it,
that's
no.
what your intent is.
Of course not.
But we need to protect the
Yes.
town against that, that's all.
Absolutely.
Are you prepared to make that motion?
Sure. I would move that we grant the alteration of premises for the alcohol license to Il Forno Lunenburg Bar, Inc., at 494 Electric Ave, with the provision that the building that is built not substantially or significantly stray from the plans presented to us today, Tuesday, November 1st, by the applicant.
Second. Is there any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes.
Thank you
So
very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great Thanksgiving.
Yep,
Happy
you too.
holidays to all of you. And glad to be in Lunenburg. Happy to be in Lunenburg.
I'm glad to have you.
Thank
you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. All right, next on our agenda this evening, and I will ask the town manager to introduce this one.
Thank you. So with us tonight is Chief Gamble and Sergeant Morial to discuss the certification that the town received as part of a accreditation program that the police department has been working on since 2015, that I believe was started, the process was started by former Chief Marino. Chief Gamble, could you come up and Sergeant Morial?
Thank you. I want to thank the board for having us tonight to present this information. As Madam Town Manager mentioned, that we were awarded a certification through the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. This has been a long process. It was started in 2015 by Chief Marino, and I believe it goes back even further. That the process was started, but we officially started it in 15. On October 26, 2022, it came to fruition that we are awarded a certificate from the MPAC. This was a voluntary program that opens our department up to review to assure the highest professionalism is met. The certification process consists of 159 mandatory standards that we have to meet. That includes review of our policies and procedures, our rules and regulations, our facilities, and also what our operations are within the police department. Before I go on further with this, I'd like to have Sergeant Morielli explain exactly, well, not exactly, but a little bit of detail of what it encompassed and what we had to go through for the past year to get to this point.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Chief Gamble assigned me to Accreditation Manager last September and assigned me this role. I did not know what I was getting into, and I probably wouldn't have agreed to it had I known. But I am very thankful that he did select me to oversee this. When I started, we had to go through all of our policies. We had to reformat them. We had to make sure we met all those standards. Aside from that, we had to go through all of our training records and how we retain them and make sure we were doing, met the standards as well. And we had to go through our facility and make sure our cell block, our evidence room, as small as, something in our lobby, met certain standards. So top to bottom on the whole department. Once we felt that we were comfortable with that, we allowed, or part of the process is to have assessors come in. We do a mock assessment. We did that back in January. They gave us a handful of things that they recommended we change and add. We did those, and then we opened up for an actual assessment in July. And this is the first step in being accredited, is to be certified. We did very well with that. They told us that we had very few changes, the smallest amount of changes that those assessors that came had seen in a long time. And then in October, or last month, we met with their board at a meeting, and they gave us certification. So very proud of the process. It's one small step. We still have a lot to go to be accredited. And it's a little bit about what I had to do, and thanks for having me. Any questions, I can answer them, or I can give it back to the chief.
Yeah, so to the board.
So, yeah, I had a question, because I was looking at the list, and
Sure.
I wondered what the difference between self-assessment, certified, and accredited was.
So self-assessment is that process of us looking through what we have and what we need to do to get to certified. Certified is the first step to become accredited. Basically, all the main meat and potatoes, to put simply, that we have to have those 159 standards. There's another around 100 more, plus we have to have some optional standards to get accredited. So it's just the first step is the certification process. A lot of departments maintain that for a period of time until they can get accredited. We're going to attempt to do what's accelerated accreditation, which they give us a year to do.
Well,
I have a question.
Sure.
So, do you feel after going through this process, how long have you been the accreditation manager, you said?
September of 2021.
Okay, so it's a year and a little bit, so like, let's say 13 months or so. So with what you've done there and being able to get it over the first finish line, do you feel that a year you'd be able to get over the next one, or will you think it'd take longer?
Absolutely. I think it can be done. I have the full support from Chief and the rest of the department as well. Any changes that, we need to make, they would jumped right on board with us and made the process a lot easier for us. So I absolutely think it can be done, yes.
All right. Any additional comments or questions?
No.
All right.
I will comment. I will comment that I want to
Can I-
commend, oh, I'm sorry.
I have a couple more things
Oh,
before
sure.
we get further comments. This really is a testament to a collaboration throughout the department and members of our department. It shows outstanding professionalism, that we've met these standards, and our members buy into this, and they're really about being professional. And this assures us that we're at that level. We're at that certification level. It means that we're a best practice police department within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that's what we strive for. This couldn't have been accomplished without the cooperation of the members and the collaboration with the members of our police department. And that includes our union president, who worked with us hand in hand when we had to make some changes to some policies and incorporate new policies that fit post requirements or fit police reform. One of the policies in question was body-worn cameras, and he worked with us hand in hand, came up with some ideas and suggestions, and it worked out very well. And I can't thank Officer McNamara enough for his collaboration. And I can't thank Amanda Moore enough either. She started this process with me when I became chief. One of my goals was to get us to that finish line. And we realized that we just couldn't do it. With everything else going on, I had to volunteer, tell somebody that they're about to take over this process. And we had to find somebody with a skill set that was able to carry this to our finish line. And Sergeant Moriali was that person that the lieutenant and myself identified. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the board for your continued support. Without your support and without the support of the town manager, I wouldn't be sitting here right now at this finish line. And I can't tell you how honored I am to present this to you, and to be here to present this in person, to say thank you, and thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to reflect some of that back to you and Sergeant Moriali and everybody who got to this point. I know this process was not started with both of you, but again, you picked up the banner and got it across the line. I think everybody knows I have the highest regard for the Lunenburg Police Department. I always say that, but to reach a level of standards that's recognized outside of Lunenburg by standards that are set by the state that exemplify the best practices, I think is a huge milestone. So I commend both of you on your hard work and diligence in getting that, and everybody who supported you, from the town manager and from your whole force, everybody, your whole staff who did that. I think it is a good accomplishment, and I look forward to, in let's say, what did you say, 1 year? So
We're hopefully this spring.
No, I heard it 1 year. So
He thinks a year, but we're trying to move for the spring.
oh well, if you can do it faster, that'd even be better. But I really want to appreciate you both. I think you deserve the utmost recognition for doing this, and thank you for presenting it to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Sure. So I think this is going to go to, well, either one of you. So can you talk to us about the value add that this brings to the residents?
Absolutely. There's a couple values. One being it reduces our liability for the town. It reduces the liability, gives us a break on our insurance rates through Maya, because now that we're in a certification process. It also reassures the community members that their police department are professional officers. We see, the news is not kind to the police departments around this country, but they can be rest assured that the policies that we're following and everything that we do is best practice. And the methodology that we have in our operations has been examined by an independent auditor, and they agree with what we're doing.
And that's great. I have some comments, so I'll save the comments after the questions. And the last, my second question is, what percentage, if you know, of communities have achieved this distinction?
Absolutely. Out of 256 participating agencies, 18 are certified, we're one of 18, and 110 are fully accredited. So we want to get into that 110 and be 111 by the spring, just so he knows.
All right, so I have a couple of comments. So first, it's not a secret that I have the highest opinion of the police department. I think everyone is fully aware of that. And so I want to first speak to you, Sergeant Morreale. So, when you were going through, when you were getting promoted to be sergeant,
Yes.
I made a couple of comments that day, and maybe you recall them, but I do. I made a couple of comments that day about how it's important to have, sergeants that bring a variety of skill sets to the table.
Yes.
That you can't go with one mold, that there are reasons why, I think I used Tossie as an example, that there's a reason why Tossie would be good in certain circumstances, and it's clear that your skill set is a different skill set. So I want to explain that, I want to comment on that a little bit more. When I was a police officer, my skill set was probably more similar to yours than it would have been to someone like Sergeant Tossie. So, so I can recognize the administrative side of it, that it's, there's different sides of policing, there's different methods, as you all know, to
Right.
police, but it's clear that you bring a really solid administrative side to this, that you have that street obviously you have that street experience, but you also have that kind of foresight. You are a future leader. It's very obvious that the officer track is probably for you. So this is a really huge accomplishment that, even before you were a sergeant, to have this kind of responsibility, to go through this, I extend to you my sincerest kudos. Job well done on this one. So
Thank you.
Great work on this, seriously.
Thank you very much.
And then also just generally to the department, I'm constantly impressed by the quality of officer that we have in Lunenburg. We don't have the issues that we have in other communities. The public doesn't know this, but you send me quarterly reports.
I do.
So you send me quarterly reports of all the police stats, because I'm very used to reading them, and this is what gets reported to the FBI. And from my experience looking at those metrics, there are absolutely no problems. The numbers don't lie. And looking at who you're pulling over, the percentage of people that are being referred to charges, looking at them by gender, by age, by race, there is absolutely no evidence of any form of discrimination within our police department, none at all. And that is incredible, especially in this age where that is what is everyone's primary concern. So I just want to speak to the professionalism of the officers that we have serving. It really is outstanding, and this is one example of it. But it's also every stop, every interaction, it's a continuation of that, and that is in the record. So great work all the way around. I know it's a team effort, but great work all the way around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. Thank you.
Great job.
Again, thank you for having us, and it really is a proud moment for our department. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to the update in the spring. I know that's aggressive.
Absolutely.
Morale is like, what?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one. All right. So to the town manager. So this is going to be you for a little bit. Interview appointments and then also the town manager's report.
Okay. I am asking the board to ratify my appointment of tax collector principal clerk Alicia Aquino tonight. And we received 33 applications for this position, interviewed 4 candidates for this position. And Alicia was chosen because she has 9 years of banking experience, and within that banking experience has familiarity with real estate taxes, municipal lien certificates, reconciliation, all important aspects that she'll be successful at in the principal clerk position. So her references described her as great at customer service, reconciliation, and a great fit anywhere. So I would ask the board to ratify her appointment tonight.
Thank you for that glowing recommendation. All right, any questions, comments from the board or motion?
I'll make the motion if we're ready for that. I move that we ratify the town manager's appointment of Alicia Aquino to the position of tax collector principal clerk.
Second.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. I didn't hear the end of the table. I wasn't looking, I'm sorry. Those opposed, no. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, on to the town manager report.
Excellent.
Okay. Announcement of existing vacancies. The following is a list of vacancies on committees. There are 2 vacancies on the Finance Committee. There are 2 associate vacancies on the Green Communities Committee, 2 vacancies on the Historical Commission, 1 member-at-large vacancy on the Open Space Committee, 1 vacancy that's jointly appointed by the Planning Board and Select Board until the next annual town election on the Planning Board, and 1 associate vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Anyone interested in any of these positions can fill out the application form found on the town website and submit it back to the town manager's office, Select Board's office. And any questions on these roles and responsibilities for these positions, you can contact the Select Board's office at 978-582-4130, extension 144. Current employment opportunities with the town. We have an administrative assistant for IT, which is a part-time non-benefited position, a conservation administrator position, which is a full-time benefited position, heavy equipment operator for the DPW, which is a full-time benefited position, the library assistant, which is a part-time non-benefited position, police officer, which is a full-time benefited position, production technician for public access, which is a part-time benefited position, public safety front desk clerk, which is a full-time benefited position, recreation director, which is a part-time non-benefited position, and videographers for public access, which are part-time non-benefited positions. And information on these employment opportunities can be found on the town website as well. Update on invitation for bids and requests for proposals. For the invitation for bid for the assessor's real property data collection services, we received 2 bids on October 11th, and the bid was awarded to Patrick Herring in the amount of $45,000, pending the town meeting approval of the funding at the special town meeting. The invitation for bid for survey work at Marshall Park, 2 bids were received on October 13th, and the bid was awarded to Dillison Roy in the amount of $17,700. And the total budget in the capital plan for this project was $25,000. Request for proposals for the lease of space at Town Hall for communications equipment. We've received 1 proposal from T-Mobile on October 18th, and this proposal is currently under review. For request for proposals for cleanup of solid waste materials at the Woodruff property, we did not receive any proposals in response to the request for proposals, and we are currently reaching out to those that received bid packages and reassessing the scope of work for that project.
Interesting. I'm about to go up to bed on a similar thing.
Good
That's
luck.
scary.
Department updates from the DPW. Currently, the DPW is down 4 large trucks. 2 of the trucks are on order as part of capital projects, and 2 are requested in the fiscal '24 capital request to be replaced. The director and the superintendent are working out a plan to make sure we have enough coverage for all our roads for winter operations due to this being down 4 trucks. The DPW's contractor will be fixing the pavement at the senior center circle driveway and the puddling issue at Town Hall this week. And the sidewalks on Highland were done last week.
Can we pause there for a second? I just have a couple of questions. 2 trucks are in order as part of the capital plan. I know that the capital plan was just approved in July, and that trucks right now are taking a long time. Do we have an estimated arrival date on these?
That's part of my capital plan update next week.
All right, I'll save that for that.
They are 1 year out, so it would be the fall of '23.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know a lot of residents have complained about trash, right? And I know that a lot of that, well, all of that is outside of our control in the sense that we have a contract and they weren't clearly geared up. I think we're going to be in a world of hurt if this winter. What's expected to, what is the impact expected to be on snow removal services at this time?
That's why I mentioned the DPW director and the superintendent were working out a plan for winter operations. So what they're looking to do possibly is use the smaller trucks, but with an insert with a sander attached to it. So they'll be able to cover. And they would have to have probably one more subcontracted out with a company for coverage.
And is there a good feeling that there are companies out there at this point that they could secure?
They'd probably utilize the same contractor that we normally use. Don't ask me the name right now, but, so.
All right.
I'm confident that they will figure out a plan for coverage for roads. If anyone knows the superintendent, Joe Progen, that's his pride, is that, you know, our roads are in good shape during winter operations, so.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the sidewalks? So the sidewalks weren't done all the way up to Chestnut. Are they going to finish the rest of that sidewalk all the way up to Chestnut? Because they stopped right at the little water. They just went up to that little parking area, and they didn't go all the way up the sidewalk that goes from the water area to Chestnut on that side of Highland. I'm just curious if they're going to do that part, because that part is like rubble.
I will have to ask.
Because that's all they did on Highland. They just went past the town pound and that was it. And then stopped right there at Marshall Water. They didn't even do that little parking area. They went, that's all they did.
During,
I
The
think
sidewalks
a
on
previous
Highland.
update I gave, it was discussed the portion that they would be doing on Highland, so I would have to look back.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because that's the portion that was previously sidewalked, was all the way up to Chestnut. So I was just wondering if they were replacing those as well.
I can look into it.
when we did our walkthrough with the school department, school committee, Mr. Bernard, Bill Bernard, our DPW director, was part of the walk. And I recall it being noted that there was missing sidewalk in that area. There was a lot of areas we were identifying where sidewalks were missing. He just didn't identify that that was like in the plans, because it was something that we recorded as needing to plan for. But I'm sure Heather will give you the full information.
But like, so when you say the sidewalk on Highland was done, but, so that doesn't really imply that the whole sidewalk on Highland was done. The sidewalk up to the town pound was done.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, so when we walked all the way to Marshall Park, we noted that. And
Okay.
we noted that there was a need for sidewalk from Marshall Pond all the way to Marshall Park.
Yeah, all the way down Chestnut, but
Yeah.
it went up to Chestnut
Yeah, and previously,
yes.
Yeah.
It's just now like rubbly.
yeah, falling apart.
Yeah.
Okay? I interrupted you, Heather.
And then I did too.
Facilities.
All right. For facilities, the director is working with the assistant town manager on various capital projects that will need to be put out to bid. He will be attending the APDC meeting this Thursday, following up on additional information they requested comparing the replacement versus restoration costs of the windows at the Ritter. And he's meeting with McCarty Engineering this week to review the ADA design for the senior center patio. I think I reported the last time, but the test results that they did recently at that came back clean as far as the old septic tank that was behind the senior center. So that was good news, because that would have driven up the costs of the project. From the assessors, the principal assessor submitted the sales reports and the form to certify new growth, and we received notification today that new growth was certified at $234,383, which is $20,860 more than the annual town meeting estimate. So you'll see later on tonight in the updated chart of changes for town meeting, that's reflected there. For land use, the land use director, police chief, and DPW director have a meeting with PJ Keating to revisit the possible removal of the rocks at the corner of Reservoir Road. Also from the land use director, Caviccio Greenhouses of Sudbury is looking to build a commercial greenhouse on Reservoir Road. And Lunenburg Central is currently working on the road widening, and the building should be fully finished by this spring. They're moving along quite quickly.
Yeah, shop at Caviccio, so that would be great. But they're a contractor-only business. Do we have commercial property?
On Reservoir Road? Yeah.
Is this considered, well, it's considered agriculture, right?
That would be considered agricultural build.
Okay. All right.
From the fire department, the third paramedic is on board. The state conducted their inspection for the paramedic licensure on October 27th, and there were a couple of follow-up items that need to be addressed, but the license should be issued shortly. From the library is using the LSTA grant for extra programming related to STEM, and they are partnering with Smokestack Roasters on a STEM program at their location in order to get out more in the community. They have been open on Fridays, and they're seeing a good turnout on Friday afternoon. From the Council on Aging, the Council on Aging is holding a new meditation class starting in December, and they've been busy with all of their monthly and regular programming at the Eagle House. From cable, PAC covered the homecoming football game, and they're also currently working with the school and Suzer RT, our IT consultant, on making one of the collaboration rooms hybrid capable. Update on the opioid settlement funds. As part of the settlement agreement with the case against the opioid manufacturers and distributors, we received a total of $28,706, which is roughly half of the total amount that we will receive related to that case. This is coming in as a general fund receipt, which in order to spend it, we must appropriate at a town meeting. And there is pending legislation to change this to a special revenue account, so it wouldn't have to be voted at a special town meeting, but that hasn't passed yet.
I have a question on this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get $57,000 roughly.
Less than that, but.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
my math is off.
Yeah.
8 and 8.
No, $57,000
Well,
is
I said
accurate.
Yeah, was that right?
roughly half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so 57.
roughly $57,000.
All right. All right, okay. So I do numbers all the time. So with the funding, with the money that we receive, since this is given as part of a settlement, should we be looking at creating some kind of specialized fund? So that way members from our community who are suffering through opioid addiction or problems, that we have, these funds set aside to help assist with certain needs that may arise. So in other words, using this to benefit people who are suffering from opioid addictions, rather than the town throwing this in its general coffers to use.
My plan was to speak with the police and fire chiefs initially to get their thoughts on what we could spend these funds on. Initially, when we joined this case, we were required to see what the impact to the town was as far as joining this case and submitting that as part of documentation for the litigation. There's nothing indicating that we're required to expend it according to that documentation. But in my opinion, it should be something related to opioid addiction and anything that would benefit members of the community in that respect. So, but the first step I thought would be to speak with the relevant departments first.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to support your comments and the town manager's comments. I mean, although it may not be in the legislation or the settlement agreement that it be used for these purposes, it only makes sense that it would be used for purposes at least directly relating to those families and members who are impacted, or tangential activities like some of the drug-related programs and the programs we've seen that presented at the schools to act in the prevention of such addiction. So yes, I would agree with you that we, although not required, I think it would make good sense that we put a good portion, if not all of it, to use for those purposes.
Okay.
Next topic, certification of free cash. So our free cash for fiscal '23 was certified by the Division of Local Services on October 25th as follows. For the general fund, it was certified at $2,838,550. The water enterprise at $57,539.
Is this our water enterprise?
Yes,
Got
not water.
Yep, it's
water-
ours. Got it.
and-
Yep.
yes. Solid waste enterprise at $134,318. Sewer enterprise at $2,232,978. And the public education government access enterprise at $922,599. The general fund free cash is allocated at the annual town meeting. It goes towards typically next year's capital plan, the special purpose stabilization fund, the regular stabilization fund, and we usually close out a portion of free cash to go towards next year's free cash. And that's all according to our policy on use of free cash. Update on streetlights. The DPW director has been working with Unitil on reconciling the inventory list of lights that were both on our list and ones that were not on the list but are in the field. The purchase and sale agreement included a provision for a reconciliation of lights not listed on the exhibit attached to the purchase and sale that were known at the time of the closing, and that it would, if it fell within the 90 days of the closing date, either party that identifies lights that were not included, there would be no additional charges for either way, those lights. So when the DPW director met with John DiNapoli of Unitil, there were approximately 29 lights that were on that list, 19 of those that we were not being charged for however long. So we were actually on the beneficial side of the phantom lights, they call them. So, and right now, the DPW director is working with the police chief just to, in agreeance of if those lights are public safety issue to keep on and add to our inventory list. In regards to the LED conversion, we're going to be engaging the services of a consultant who will be doing the assessment and consulting services for oversight of the project and will help us be putting the bid out and overseeing the entire project as well. Update on Flat Hill Road drainage study project that was approved as part of the capital plan in fiscal '23. McCarty Engineering has issued their findings regarding the study of the Flat Hill Road drainage project, and this has been forwarded to the board as well as the residents that have been attending those meetings and are interested in the results of these findings. And I have a meeting this week with the director and McCarty Engineering, and we'll come back to the board with an update after that.
Okay.
In other meetings, events, and announcements, the remaining fall yard waste days at the old landfill off of Youngs Road will be on November 5th, 12th, and 19th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is open to Lunenburg residents only.
I have a question on that. So I've participated in this, but, I mean, what's the verification for Lunenburg residents? Or is it just, we tell everyone in Lunenburg it's happening and hope no one from Fitchburg and Leominster here?
I would have to ask if they actually ask for where you live. I don't, but, or your license, but I really doubt it.
Okay. Okay.
The Zoning Board of Appeals will be having their next hearing on Pondview Commons 40B on November 9th at 7 p.m. in this meeting room. And the special town meeting is November 15th at 7 p.m. at the middle school, high school auditorium.
Racing toward us.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Heather, for that really thorough town manager report. All right, and thank you for bearing with me for all my interruptions.
Not a problem.
Old business. Any questions? I'm sorry. Any questions for the town manager on the report that she provided to us this evening? Old business, review American Rescue Act, ARPA, funding request and evaluation criteria. So this is a carryover from last month when we were reviewing the requests that came in. And so each member, we asked members to submit information to Mr. Alonso by the end of October, so that way he could draft a criteria. So in our Google Drive, we do have this draft criteria. Mr. Alonso, would you like to present this?
Sure. So, as this is basically one-time money, the ARPA funds, it only made sense, and in fact, it was referenced at the meeting, we discussed this in September or early October, that we would at least begin to use the template that we use for the capital planning committee for the rating criteria. So I have kind of pared that down into what you see here, and then with the help of the town manager, and I thank her for her assistance on this, we added the last 5 items, which are not part of the capital plan, because these things don't necessarily come up with the capital plan, the last 5 items. We did not get much input from the rest of the board on their requests, so this is basically a revamping of that and a couple of people who did submit things. But I think it outlines a good set of questions that we can apply. In the capital plan, we apply points to each of these. I removed the point system because we may not want to go with a point system at all, or we may want to revamp what the point system is for this particular purpose. But basically, everything that's before us as an ARPA request would go through these questions and come up with some kind of score, or at least provide us with some guidance in prioritizing individually and as a board which requests would be funded and for what reasons before others.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alonso. And to the board, with any, so the goal tonight is to look this over. You know, I know that we have kind of like, 3 policies right now that we're kind of up in the air, and we need to home in over the next few months. So the expectation is not that we're going to finalize this today, but the hope is that we will finalize this before the end of the year. So December is going to be, I know, a pretty administrative month on policy, and with all the annual renewals that we have to do, that we do, all the licenses. So I'm hoping that we can get to a better point next month for sure. But tonight, if we want to have any comments, so that way we can figure out how do we improve this process. I'll start. One thing that I had recommended in my notes to Mr. Alonso was for there to be a 2-part funding process. That was my suggestion for 2 reasons. One is that there seems to be some projects that we have awareness of now that may need to get funding, in the springtime. So that way things can happen next year, that there seems to be an opportunity for some projects that were requested to be completed before fiscal year 2025, so June 30th of 2024. So there seems to be several projects that can probably be completed in about a year, but that we might want to look at it as 2 phases. The first phase being a smaller dollar amount, $1 million of it, and that being a disbursement award in about springtime, March, April, and there being a second round of disbursement for the remaining balance of about $2.5 million, and that happening later next year in about October. That was really kind of, I think, the key points that I had was the 2 processes. And I think even though the rest of my suggestions were different, I think they're captured in this well.
Right. And the only reason, and so yes, your submission to me for the criteria actually didn't really, it addressed the criteria, but it was mainly about process.
Yeah.
And I wasn't tasked with coming up with the process. So I didn't really include the process in here. I just included the criteria. Obviously, we're going to have to come up with a process. I'm personally not against the 2-phase process. It certainly seems reasonable to me. But that's why it's not included here. Not that I want to I don't want it to appear like I'm being defensive about it. I'm just giving reasoning why that wasn't.
Yeah, no, I think you've captured what my goals were anyway in this. So, like I said, I think you do a great job with compilations. So what are the thoughts from the board? Do we need to, I know that this wasn't communicated in advance because it's a communication from a member, so they're provided, the day of. So does the board want to mull this over and talk about this tonight, talk about this next week?
I'd personally like to talk about it next week, get a chance to review it a little more thoroughly.
Same.
Okay, excellent. All right, that's usually how this works, right? Where we present one meeting and discuss another, so that way everyone has time. All right, so the intent for our next discussion on this, which would be next week, I have to talk to Heather about that based on the calendar, but it likely will be next week, is that we can pick this up and then also to, once we finalize this component, to discuss process as well. So there's, like I said, goals to get this done and wrapped up before the end of the year. All right. Any other discussion on this? Discussion, next topic, discussion on November 15th, special town meeting, warrant articles and the consent calendar. To the town manager on this.
So, as I stated in my town manager report, we have the updated new growth figure. So we're finally finalized on our budget adjustment, and our funding sources and what that surplus capacity is that we have to spend at special town meeting. And for the budget adjustment article, there are no changes. The dollar number maintains the same, the one that was voted on, and as well as the payment of prior year expense is the same. The police union collective bargaining agreement was voted on by the board at the last meeting and was approved by the police union, signed off on the police union. So we are all set for that. And looking at the budget, I worked with Chief Gamble and Amanda Moore, the police department, to look at what they have available within the budget. And basically due to some, it's a sergeant out on medical leave. It's been out for some time, so that there was a surplus in that line. A detective position that hasn't been filled yet, so surplus in that area. So what we will need for that article is a transfer of $16,000 from the salary reserve account to cover the cost of the collective bargaining agreement, which we have available. So that is the total cost. I also put in the Google Drive a breakdown of cost.
Is this the revenue expense sheet?
No. Sorry. It's the police contract costing out model.
What are we looking at?
Yeah, where's this at? Oh, please, it's not in
It's
the
not in
special
the special
town.
town meeting folder. It's
Alright.
a standalone document.
It's just two below it,
yeah.
the police contract
Yeah.
costing out model. Okay,
So essentially for the public, the agreement is 2% for fiscal '23, 2.5% for fiscal '24 with a wage adjustment, and 2.5% for fiscal '25. Wage adjustment was based on a comp analysis indicating that that we were below par for our sergeants and our patrolmen, how they were paid. So there was a wage adjustment made there. Also added a officer in charge pay and specialty pay amounts and field training officer stipends. The total impact to the budget for fiscal '23. And this is utilizing the surplus and other lines, is the 37,823.45, which we will only need the 16,000 from the salary reserve account. The impact for fiscal '24 is $197,489.13, and for fiscal '25, $53,948.82, for a total 3-year impact of $289,261.
I had, I think I raised them in executive, so I can raise them here separately. There were some questions about the overtime accounts and these numbers growing. Do we have any more visibility into the source of that?
The chief I did ask him for additional information on that, and he has forwarded me some information in different emails, so I wanted to compile it and put it together and send it to the
Okay.
board. But based on previous overtime from last year, there's no difference as far as the overtime costs. And there, he gives a breakdown through their payroll system that they use, showing the individual breakdowns of overtime.
Yeah, my question is not about this year, it's about the projection, 2025, 2024. And, you know, I know that staff pay is going to go up, and so that's going to account for increase generally. But I think what I'm wondering is what can be done, you know, what can be done to minimize this pretty substantial growth in the overtime budget. That's about a 20% growth over 2 years.
I mean, he provided, you asked for,
Why?
well, historical
Yeah, I did.
data.
I did.
You did. And you asked, like, based on other communities, and he provided examples of other communities, and it's very similar for overtime costs.
Yeah.
As percentage of your salaries.
Okay, so I look forward to that information. I think the additional component to that is, you know, my concern is the growth that's being projected over the next 20 years and having over the next 2 years, and being able to better understand, you know, if we're hitting our staffing numbers, we've implemented the staffing plan that was developed, why we should expect a 20% roughly growth in the overtime line item. That would be helpful to have a better understanding of.
You're talking about 20% of the salary or 20%?
No. The difference
total?
between 2023 versus which is being projected at 350,000 to 2025, which is being projected at almost 450,000, 446,000. So it's better understanding why that line item is growing so substantially.
I would have to run the numbers, but are you looking also at the total for the comparison of total salaries as well?
Salary adjustment.
Right.
Right.
It's definitely.
Because
the-
overtime is
it's-
paid, overtime is paid by
Yeah, it's the
this
salary
year
adjustment, it has to
salary,
be.
right.
That's what I would assume, but I guess what I'm asking is, you know, even if salaries increase we were projecting, and as I expect them to, that I guess it's not clear to me why, if we're implementing a staffing plan that we're done with, you know, why, even if wages go up, why overtime hours aren't coming down.
Right, because we've staffed. Now, we understand why it was overtime so much before, because we didn't have the staff.
Correct.
And now that we're almost up to the level that we should be, why would there be so much overtime?
Yeah, well, that's the
Exactly
question.
what you want to know.
Yes. Yep, thank you, Heather.
All right.
I think what it's going to come down to is when you even adding an additional officer, and there's going to be shift changes with adding additional staff, meaning you may move from 3 to 4 officers on a shift.
Right.
If there's an officer out, you're still having to cover that shift. Or if they're on vacation, or if they're at training, that there's still a shift coverage for overtime.
Right.
I understand that, but we also have minimum coverages. And so, I mean, you know, which is lower than, you know, those shift amounts. So I think that's what I'm looking for is just if I can get a better understanding of how it looks, how I'm reading it, it doesn't appear as if there's going to be a change in how overtime is utilized. And so what I'm looking for is a better understanding of what can be done to better control the overtime line item. I know that officers, and I want to say this first, I know officers depend on the overtime. It's part of the job. They know that they're going to make extra money doing overtime, and that's every police department offers it. Every police department needs to offer it. It's what keeps officers doing the job, is the potential to make more money. So I understand that, and I think that needs to remain there. I'm not comfortable with this line item growing by 20% over 2 years, because that's $500,000 or $446,000 we're projecting in a couple of years for overtime. And I am mindful that we have many staff, not in the police department, who aren't eligible for overtime. And so, I'd like to better understand how we can control that number.
So, one thing I'd like to point out is I just did some quick calculations, and so for fiscal year '23, their appropriation was roughly $350,000, and that represents roughly 21% of the total appropriation. Fiscal year '25, while the total overtime budget is, as you said, about $100,000 higher, it's only 23% of the overall budget. So it did grow, but it's not as shocking as the number sounds.
Yeah.
Does that include holiday pay?
It's holiday
Okay.
pay, it's vacation coverage, it's court time if they're required to go to court, it's training.
Yep.
So it's all of those eligible
Yeah.
overtime. So, and that's, it's not just simplified into, working additional
Overtime.
shifts. Right,
Yeah.
right.
It sounds so like overtime.
Right.
It's justified. I mean, most overtime,
And
I think all
some of it required, like
Yeah.
they're required
Right.
for certain training and,
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking for, is a better understanding of what, if anything, is how they're projecting that out. As noted, it is a growth, and what, if anything, can be done to control that number. We want to make sure officers have the opportunity, but, I'm not sure why we're projecting out so much. But nonetheless, I obviously approved this, and
Mr. Chair, if I may, one of the things I'd like to see is the dollar amounts aside, which I think are important, but I'd love to know the shifts, like how many hours are covered in overtime year over year. Because I think we're going to find out it's going to be relatively the same.
yeah.
And that's just because when you hire people and they go on, everybody gets vacation. So
Right,
therefore
right.
you have X amount of overtime covered because you have to cover somebody's vacation. If somebody gets sick or somebody goes on injury leave, that's going to be all the additional overtime. And, I got to believe most of these numbers are standard, and I think the number that Mr. Dwyer came up with is probably accurate. The reason why adding police officers doesn't reduce the number is because when you bring somebody on, a lot of times we're not filling the bench for the same number of seats on the shifts. We're increasing the number of shifts so that there's more people out patrolling. So therefore, when that person goes on vacation, they have to get covered too. So adding people and adding shifts actually probably increases the amount of overtime instead of reducing it.
Yep. And it's a factor of the town growing.
Right.
As the town grows, so should your public safety to keep the people safe.
Yeah, nope, I'm not in disagreement with any part of this. I just want more understanding of the overtime
Yeah,
line
it would be
item.
good to see the numbers. I agree with you.
I will forward all the information I have received so far from the chief and
All right.
ask him for any additional information needed. So I think we covered Article 3. Marshall Park Engineering and Design. This number, after working with the facilities director and the Park Commission chair, is estimated to be between 150 and 200,000 for the engineering. We will have approximately, and after speaking with the finance director too, we don't want to utilize up until the very last dollar that we have available. So we'd like to keep a surplus of about $2,500 at the closeout of town meeting. So $184,000 would be available for that article. If that article does not pass, it would be recommended to deposit those funds into the Special Purpose Stabilization Fund, which is Article 5. That's the $184,000, and they also have remaining funds from the capital article for the master plan for Marshall Park, which is about $10,000. So they should have sufficient funds to go out to bid for the engineering and everything for that next phase of the project. Articles 6 and 7, those amounts were known and voted on by the board already. There's no update there. I do not have an update on Article 8. I will try my hardest to have one next Tuesday, the last meeting before town meeting. And I don't think there are any other remaining questions on the other articles. The APDC is meeting this Thursday, so they should be taking an official vote on tabling their article that they submitted. And they'll be discussing the Ritter Building project as well on Thursday. So I'll give an update on Tuesday because I'll be attending that meeting.
Okay. Consent calendar. Is your intent that we will initiate that tonight, or that we're going to do this next week?
There's very few articles that I would recommend for consent calendar. The payment of prior year expense, the 2 sewer articles, and the salary administration bylaw change.
All right. So in our, we have this in our booklet. So if we go into our folder on special town meeting and we open up the booklet and we go to page 3. So these, you're recommending Articles 1.
No, Article 2.
I'm sorry, Articles 2,
Article 6.
Articles 6, 7,
And 9.
and 9.
And if the APDC votes to table their article, I would also recommend including that article, but won't know that till next week.
Okay. So today, we're going to discuss 2, 6, 7, and 9. When is the Finance Committee next meeting?
This Thursday. No, sorry, next Thursday,
Next Thursday? All right.
the 10th.
Mr. Chair, just through you to the town manager,
Yes.
just to keep things clear, I would not include, even if they choose to pass over the article, I wouldn't put it in the consent calendar, because that means people would get confused. What are we passing over and what are we approving? It would just be easy. It's going to take literally 2 minutes to pass over this. No one's going to argue passing over if they want to pass over it, so we're not really saving any time, and I think it just keeps things clear. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I didn't even write it down. I stopped at 9. Because I wasn't going to support that. All right, so 2, 6, 7, and 9 are the articles that we are looking right now for consent on. Again, payment of prior expenses, this is for $1,804.54. And then the 2 sewer articles for stabilization fund, $1,645. And then the inflow infiltration stabilization fund, $9,900. And then Article 9 is to amend the Code of Lunenburg, Chapter 70, Salary Admin Plan, and that was as discussed by the Personnel Committee when they came before us. It's just a correction. So, is there a motion to add Articles 2, 6, 7, and 9 to a consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. All right, so we'll discuss next week anything else that remains. And we're good. I'm at 2.
Yeah, I'm like,
All right.
2.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. So next, we have our status update on town manager and select board goals. This is a kind of reoccurring theme here every month. So I will briefly just start on the select board goals. I know Heather's going to get a little organized here. I'll start on the select board goals that we bring up, and I think we can quickly go through these. The first objective is to continue to pursue a project acceptable to the town regarding the property and building at 30 School Street, which is a continuation of our 21 and 22 Select Board Goals Objective 1 with modified actions. And so we will be discussing this in more detail again in December and January. So we have several meetings coming up to work through that. And I know that we were waiting for information from the Municipal Building Design Committee, which we received a few weeks ago, but based on the calendar, our next opportunity is going to be in December. The objective number 2 was working with the town manager and finance director to establish a means-tested senior citizen property tax exemption or abatement. So I think where we left off last month on this was that there was something, if I remember, Mr. Alonso, that you were preparing, and I'm not sure.
Yes,
where
so
we're
there is no movement on this, but that will change now because my schedule is clearing up, so there's no change since last month.
Okay. And so this is, again, a goal that we're targeting for the spring, hopefully, but we know implementation is going to be a little longer. And that's because it needs to get approved by the state as well. Objective number 3 was to review select board bylaws, propose updates for 2023 annual town meeting. So we have completed our action on reviewing select board policies and procedures. And next we have bylaw review, which we will be splitting that between a meeting in December and a meeting in January. So some of this, we know is going to wait. And then we'll have a public hearing to discuss those proposals, and then we'll prepare a town meeting warrant article. I don't see a pathway in which we will not accomplish that objective. Is that a fair summary on behalf of the board? Okay. And to the town manager.
All right. So goal number 1, continuation to redevelop, reuse 925 Mass Ave. The project's moving forward in the targeted brownfields assessment program and is anticipated to be completed by the end of the calendar year by the EPA. And after the last correspondence I had with Jim Byrne from the EPA, they're looking at removal of the canopy as well as part of the project as well. So that was good. And there's no update as far as the disposition of the property at this point. Long-term planning for capital planning. After we did our annual review of our insured vehicles and equipment, that was just completed, and those forms will be updated accordingly. This fall, we started using the same software that we use for budgeting, which is ClearGov, for our capital planning process. And so all the departments that submitted project requests had to submit them through ClearGov. So all that information is compiled in a central location, and those the software allows for reporting out of all the projects. So that's what I've used the last couple of meetings for the capital planning committee, as far as summarizing by department all the requests, as well as how a separate report on the rating criteria for each of the projects. Long-term staffing, I've begun to meet with department heads about long-term staffing needs, so that's in progress. The pavement management, the condition report has been submitted by the Beta Group, and the DPW director and I will be reviewing this with the project manager. But what they noted in their initial findings came very positive. Our overall network rating came in at 84.75, which is one of the highest scores our project manager has seen in New England for the last 12 years. So
That's fabulous.
something very proud that, or
One of the best
that
roads in New England.
yeah, that the community should be proud of, that they invested in the roads as well as everyone that's worked on them as well.
Now it's on us, and we're doing a good job so far to maintain them, and then we just got to continue that. Yeah.
Yes.
It's excellent.
The DPW director has received a quote for their bridge culvert management plan, and he and I are looking currently at possible grants to fund this expense. For employee recruitment, recognition, and retention, for recruitment, regarding working with towns on a regional approach to recruitment. I have approached other towns and they are open to a regional approach for recruitment. So that was nice to hear. And design job postings that market the town and position to attract greater pool of applicants. The assistant town manager has been working on a job posting that would be geared more to marketing, a flashier type advertising for positions, because everyone knows that the job market has changed significantly.
Out of curiosity, I was speaking to HR the other day, and they mentioned that they were only posting on LinkedIn, which I don't even have a LinkedIn account. I was like, what? Is that like
Only on LinkedIn?
only on LinkedIn?
Wow,
And I thought that
yeah.
was really aggressive.
Yeah, we're kind of spread out on
Okay.
our postings.
Okay.
Yeah. We do Indeed, and that we
Yeah.
do generate a lot of applications. A lot of them
Unqualified.
are unqualified,
Yeah.
but we have received applicants that we've hired through Indeed. So
College students use like Handshake.
Yeah, they do. Many, like Handshake.
Whatever
Handshake.
college students use, just wait 2 years and they won't use it.
Probably not,
that's
but
the
like
problem.
right now, they're all
Can't stay
using,
with anything.
they're using that right now,
Yeah.
college students.
My cousin graduated from Brandeis. They're using Handshake too.
So
Fitchburg State's using
that
it.
might be something you want to look into for recent graduates.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Thanks, Heather.
Attend college job fairs and explore internship programs with local colleges. I recently reached out to Suffolk University about a job shadowing program, so not specifically internship, but it starts the process of trying to get people interested in the types of jobs that municipalities have. So that's half the battle right there. Create a formal recognition plan. I do not have an update on that, or the annual employee appreciation event. And for retention, survey department heads and staff. I have surveyed department heads at our department head meetings. And as of yet, nothing's come out of that for training specifically. But I did work with Worcester County Retirement, and we're doing a benefit seminar this Monday for all eligible employees. And conduct employee survey to assess job satisfaction. And that is one of the funding requests on the special town meeting, a budget adjustment article.
All right. Thank you. The only thing I know someone at home is watching and they're saying, about these roads. What about the line striping?
Review it again.
So if we want to hit this one more time, because we had this scheduled for last week, weather permitting, and we know what the weather was last week. It rained many days, and then we know it takes.
Control the weather.
Yeah, you can't control the weather, and then this week it's raining. What's our date of after this date? It's not going to happen this year.
That's weather dependent as well, as far as when, yeah.
Because we're about to have 76 degrees this
Right,
weekend.
right.
Yes, it's going to be lovely.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. And we've also reached out to some of my colleagues, companies they use regionally, and gave that information to the director as well. So, but as of yet, we haven't had any callback.
Yep. Okay. All right. Yep, no, we have someone under contract, just for those at home, we do have someone under contract to paint the roads, and we've had them under contract for a while. We've just had difficulty actually getting it to happen.
Yep, this process started in July.
Yep. And the DPW director has reached out to other companies to see if they are available to do the work, and it's non-responsive. So,
And Mr. Chair, if I may, by the same token, for those people on social media who, bring up the missed cycles of the trash program and everything, so we have somebody, first of all, that you can relay these problems to, that we're gathering for town hall. So Jamie Toll is our, what's the official title?
Recycling coordinator.
Right. But I just want people to understand is that, they're under contract, yes, but they were the only bidder. It's not like we can easily go and say, we'll get somebody else. They were the only bidder in town because municipal trash programs are not lucrative at this time. And even though they're under contract, sure, we could sue them, we could try to do lots of things, but then none of them would be constructive in this regard. So we're doing the best that we can. And the same thing with the road striping. It's not like we have a department in town that, oh, why don't we just stripe the roads ourselves? We don't have the equipment, we don't have the people, we don't have the resources. So it has to be outsourced. And so, you know, if anybody's trying to get a contractor to work at their house, they know how difficult it is. Well, in the business world, it's just as difficult. So it is frustrating, and we share the frustration, but I want people to understand what's happening in the process. It's not for lack of effort of trying to get these things to be advanced more quickly. It's just that, you know, there are problems with getting some of the work done.
No, we're seeing it everywhere. I did $250,000 fireproofing project, 2 bids, 2. Many projects that are coming in, you know, under $1 million, no bids, because it's just so much big construction that it's really hard, you know, who would have thought a $200,000 project was a small project? But it's the world we're in.
Sure.
So. All right. I know these things are impactful, but at the same time, you know, I think they're understandable and unfortunate, but soon enough. All right. Thank you, Heather, for the update. Are there any questions to the town manager? No? Did you have any questions for us on our goals?
No.
I know you and I talk all the time, so. All right, current business, approval of minutes from October the 4th, October the 5th, and October the 15th. And so there were some modifications made to the minutes from the 4th, and Elaine did update them. We did postpone at our last meeting approving those. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October the 4th and October the 15th?
Just want to say that those have to be separated, I think, because we had all 5 members for the 4th, but.
Yeah, I was not the fifth.
So,
Let's do it.
so I'll move to approve the minutes of October 4th as presented.
Second.
Any additional discussion? As many as are in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the minutes of October 15th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
All right, any additional discussion?
I will abstain from the vote because I was not at that meeting.
All right,
That meeting.
I'll ask for an abstention then. As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Any abstentions?
Yes?
All right, so that is a 4-0 to 1 vote. All right. All right, and then next we have warrants. Seeing none. Are we gonna need to come in tomorrow?
No, it's the SNOF week, right? So,
We should be all set. All right, so we'll have to come in, we'll have them next week. Any action items? Mr. Franco.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is actually, I figured out, there was a little bit of confusion. Heather and I talked about this earlier, but the request, at the appreciation breakfast yesterday, I had a request from the head of the Council on Aging Gift Fund, but it apparently is on behalf of Eagle House supporters. And that is, they've been planning this for a while. They want to run a drive, a donation drive for clothes in conjunction with the Epilepsy Foundation. And that's going to involve putting a collection bin. Now, the initial request was to put it on Ritter, which is town property. So that's still a possibility. I think I have all this right. But they may put it on private property, in which case it doesn't affect us at all. But I guess what I want to do is I want to put this sort of has to be fast-tracked because they want to do this by December 1st. We may only have one additional meeting of substance other than town meeting this month, so I would like to put a hollow out and have on next week's calendar at least a placeholder to allow someone to come in and speak to that and explain precisely what it is they want to do. Perhaps by then it'll be decided whether it's going to be at Ritter. And if it is, sort of all the questions we're going to want to ask and have them speak to that and then have a vote at that time.
All right, we'll put the placeholder on. I know that there's going to be, so can you explain a little bit more about the income stream that this is expected to generate?
I cannot speak to the details on what the income stream that it's expected to generate, but maybe Heather can, but I think the model is that they're doing this in conjunction with the Epilepsy Foundation, and then when they've collected over a certain poundage of clothes, I believe it's 500 pounds or something like
I
that.
don't know that.
is the trigger. So for the first 500 pounds, Epilepsy Foundation gets everything. And then after that, Eagle House starts sharing in what is collected beyond that. So I don't know how they're monetizing this, but somehow it's being monetized. And Eagle House will share in that.
You have a question?
Do you think one bin is enough? Because when the school did it, they did a whole room at the TC Passios. They filled a whole room.
Oh, so,
I'm just curious about the one bin. How big is this bin? Do you
Well, I
see the
guess that we
bins
have to-
around town?
It's,
We
it's
have
a
to have-
My Box size.
It's one of those boxes, right?
It's a kind of a large,
Because they have the epilepsy
Metal.
ones right at Lonnie's Orchards. They have a row of,
it almost looks like a container box that you would
Like
like.
a pod?
Yeah, I-
Yeah.
more of
bel-
a pod, a bigger box. It's not like those little ones that
No,
people are
not little.
constantly throwing garbage in.
I believe the
Okay.
bins commonly manufactured, rented under the trademark pod is what they have in mind.
Okay. So it's a little, it's bigger than a regular throw in the
Yes.
shoes box.
Yes, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, and
And-
I guess we get them before us, have them present what they want to present, and then we ask all these questions. Is it going to be monitored? Who's going to clean this up? They want to do this for a period of 4 months. If there's junk collecting around it, who's going to monitor this, clean it up? Will it be under view of camera? All these kinds of questions I suspect we're going to want to ask.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we'll do the
Did you have-
placeholder.
No, I was
see
just,
Heather already
I was
doing
just
it.
curious.
So we'll have it as a placeholder for next week, and can we give them a time at this point? Do we-
I have
thought
to
we
see
had-
how long the text classification hearing is
that's
going to
first.
take.
I think I advised Mr. Alonso before the meeting that it probably won't happen until closer to 8, because we do have another appointment that day.
okay.
But
we'll,
our office can get in touch with the president of the Eagle House supporters.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
Our office can get in touch with the president of the Eagle House supporters to tell them the time.
Okay. And yeah, that's another point of clarity. We are now, I think that's where the confusion came. We are absolutely certain it's Eagle House supporters, right? Because I want to make sure it's right on the agenda and it's like, or do we
Yes,
want to put a
yes, it
place-
is, because they talked about it when I went to one of their the other meetings.
All right, yeah.
Yes. And it's a new is
Well, they
it?
brought this up like 2 months ago and it was Eagle House supporters at the time. I was very confused
And
yesterday.
it's a new president, right?
Pat
Did they have
Kennedy?
was a new president of the Eagle House supporters?
Pat Kennedy.
I think that's new.
Yeah.
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Franco. Are there any other action
The
items?
confusion came from me when she introduced herself to me yesterday and said that she was the president of the Council on Aging Gift Fund. That's where I got confused. So,
Yeah, I think that's Eagle Health
you
supporters.
can see where I'd get confused when somebody tells me what that title is. So,
Just as a side note, anyone still watching us, you can, if anyone uses Amazon, that there is a program called Amazon Smile, and it's a way to easily donate. It's not adding anything to the cost of your purchases. Instead of it being Amazon.com, it's smiled.amazon.com. And you can select a organization that will receive a portion of your purchases. That money goes to them. And so I'm mentioning this because the library is one of the organizations that you can donate to, and as well as the Eagle House supporters is another one.
And the Boys and Girls Club, too.
And the
same thing.
PTO.
Yep.
And the
PTO.
skate park.
Yeah, lots.
So there's a whole lot of good options
I
out
wonder
there.
if the Salvation Army is,
Probably, I would assume so. I should have asked that question. They
the
were here.
local one.
So I would encourage anyone at home who uses Shops Amazon to really consider signing up for the Smile program. And that way, again, no additional cost to you. It's just a portion of those proceeds go to it. And the reason why I'm noting it is I saw something the other day that it does track how many of items you've bought and the amount of money that has gone to them. So it's pretty cool. And it's an easy, passive way for them to collect money from within the community. So thank you for that. Any other action items? All right, and committee reports.
Michael Wright, Chair, you went to the school committee meeting.
I did.
You did. So
I'll
you'll have to
speak
report
it.
on that.
I'll
Yes.
give the update on
Okay.
that. Well, I can give a, did you watch?
Okay.
I can
No.
give a partial update. All right, so we'll talk school, then you want to pick it up?
No.
Then I'll do it when I come down
Okay.
tomorrow. All right. Any other committee reports?
I have none.
I just wanted to report that the Economic Development Committee meeting that would have happened at the end of October didn't. It is now going to be scheduled for November 10th, I believe, is the date we landed on, so.
Excellent.
Capital Planning met last Wednesday, and we heard a presentation from the school department on their requests. It was a very good discussion. These are all now this year, they're all being recorded on Zoom, and therefore you can see them on YouTube. Some of them are, this past week wasn't recorded live, wasn't broadcast live, I meant, so it's only on YouTube, but some of them are actually broadcast live when PAC has the ability, if there's not a conflicting meeting. The next meeting of ours is this coming, actually, we have 2 meetings this coming week, Monday and Wednesday. Monday will be a presentation from the Facilities Department, and on Wednesday will be a presentation from Fire, Police, and DPW.
All right, excellent. So I have a couple of things that are probably a combination of action items and committee reports. Is anyone assigned Green Communities Task Force? No? All right. So I'm working with them a bit on the, so I can liaise with them for this project, but I'm working with them to see about getting solar panels on the Old Town Dump. I mentioned this in a previous committee report, and there seems to be some movement on this, so I'll keep following this, and then I'll come back to the board with a more detailed update. Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee did not meet this month. So we did meet at the beginning. We did not meet last week. We are meeting on the beginning of December. Right now, the concepts are, the select board already met and discussed them, met with the school committee to review them, and then they're generally also with the planning board. So we're waiting for all that feedback. It's coming, it was all due, I think we requested it all by the end of October. And so the meeting will happen. Also, the Lunenburg Ledger published a story on the, I believe it was the 18th, 14th, 18th of October that also noted this in the newspaper. So there's also some public feedback that we're looking to get as well. So we'll be meeting the first Monday of December, and this will be a Zoom meeting. I believe it's the 7th, and it's going to be at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. So I also attended the school committee meeting, and it was a lengthy meeting. And I did not stay for the last hour and a half, the workshop that they did, but I did stay for the first 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So, school committee meeting, you know, the highlights there is I met with the school committee. We had a really lengthy discussion, and this was on behalf of the Municipal Building Design Committee to present the concepts to them, to get the feedback from them, and to bring that back to again, to bring that back to the Municipal Building Design Committee. So that portion of the discussion was really good, and I thought it was a very helpful, healthy conversation. A lot of ideas that were presented, and a lot of things came out of that. The school committee is also meeting again. I believe it's this week, and it's to have it's for them to internally discuss those concepts and give some more feedback, and then also to discuss the environmental policies that we sent to them, the draft environmental policies, and they're going to be reviewing those and giving us feedback. All right. Library trustees, so their meeting, they had to reschedule their meeting, and it conflicted with the school committee, so I did not attend their meeting. However, you know, library is doing very well generally. That's a general comment. And then I got a message right before this meeting from the chair of the library trustees, just wanting to thank Mylene and Heather for the work that's ongoing with getting the trust funds, you know, into a different financial vehicle. So I will provide a better update on the library trustees in the meeting. So then I just wanted to update the board on 2 things that are out there that are not before us, but that will be coming before us, or may be coming before us. The first is we received a request, and I'm not sure if it was forwarded to the full board or not. I thought so, but we received a request for a resident on Summer Street requesting an ADA parking space in front of their home.
Yes, we did.
So I thought you guys received that communication from them. This was back over a month ago. Mm-hmm. And in response to that, I sent a couple of questions to the homeowner. And primarily my question was, looking at the residents, driving by the residents, they have a 2-car garage. There's 2 parking spaces behind that garage. They have parking for an RV. And this is a section of Summer Street that we just put in new sidewalks. And their request is to move the sidewalk closer to their house and to put in a ADA parking space in front of their house.
To bump it in.
For them.
Yep.
And so my question to them was, you know, why can't this be achieved on your own property? As a first question. And I asked them to respond to that, and that once they responded, that we would schedule a meeting to discuss it. We have not received a response to that question, which is, you know, again, why can't this be achieved on your own property? So there's no, at this point, there's no fault. I did send a follow-up communication to them. I'm not sure when that was. It was within the last couple of days. Haven't received a response. So the other request is with 51, is our property that we own at 51 Parmenter, which is off of Lake Shirley. So there's an owner at 45 Parmenter who abuts this property, who's looking to put in a septic system. So currently his septic system is behind his house, closest to the lake. And he wants to put a new system in front of his house, away from the lake. And his request is to access town property to get to his existing septic tank and remove it. So they want to remove existing septic tank from the back of the house. They want to traverse town property to do it. So what they provided to us was just a plan of the septic tank system. And so my requests back were, we need to have more information on the request in terms of, you know, what's the proximity of the septic tank to town property? Can you identify on a map kind of where you plan on traveling across town property? You know, do you need to modify, cut any trees, cut anything on town? So getting more, you know, I think it was in total maybe 4 or 5 questions, but it was all along those lines of just, we need more information in order to be able to consider this. So that request is coming on behalf of the homeowner, but it's through Dan Proctor. And the request is for us to have this on our agenda for next week. So I did go down today and just look at the area to get a better idea personally of what was going on. I understand why they're making the request. You know, one of the questions I asked is what's the alternative? And there is, to me, there seems to be a pretty obvious alternative. So I'd like to get a better understanding. But regardless, we asked them to respond by Thursday so we can put this on the agenda for next week. So if we get that response, which in my opinion, it's probably about 20 minutes of work, you know, to print this stuff off and mark it up. It wasn't asked them to create anything new in CAD. But if we get that information this week, then we'll have that on the agenda for the 8th. There's a question to the board in this. If we do not get that information by Thursday, do we want to have a meeting on the 22nd for the purpose of reviewing that request, or do we want to consider that in December? The homeowner advised me today that although they are closing on the house like tomorrow, that it's a contingent sale, and that the owner who's buying is not looking to move in anytime soon, and that they're going to spend a couple of months renovating their property. And so from their perspective, you know, next week would be nice, but they are okay if this goes into December. Their concern is the ground freezing.
Can I just add on to this? Because this is something I forwarded on to the chair.
I was going to have one more thing, but I think you're probably going to say what I was going to say.
Okay.
'Cause this is a property that we've had issues with on both sides.
Yeah, this is something that stemmed, though, the request didn't come initially to us. We received an abutter notification from Conservation because they have a hearing from the homeowner on the septic install due to its proximity to the lake. So I asked Lane to get more information on it, the copy of the plan, knowing the address, and that we've had a history of encroachment on both sides of that property that we've been dealing with, that Tellerman and Costa had sent encroachment letters in the past, and issues were resolved, but then things came up and I had to engage the police department to go down there, and it's been happening over a period of years. So the concern was that making sure, because we had the property surveyed, making sure where the boundary was, knowing that this property owner is selling the property, and that installation of a new septic system to make sure it's on their property and not on ours. So that's where the request stemmed from. It didn't actually come to our office. It was discovered through, because they had filed with Conservation And I've been in contact with the conservation chair to let him know the concerns and the history behind that. And whatever the decision of the board is, we can relay to conservation, but their hearing is on November 16th. The Board of Health has a meeting next week on this as well. And also, I reached out to town council because any access on that property should have a right of entry agreement with the homeowner that will lay out any stipulations on the property. If there's damage to the property, whatever it may be, a right of entry will formalize that in an agreement from the board. It doesn't require town meeting approval. It's not an easement. It's allowing them access to use our property.
For a limited time.
Right.
So what the only other thing I would add to that is what I observed today were 2 encroachments. So I observed that based on the parcel map that I looked at, the owner to the right, their fence must be on town property, several feet into town property, actually. And then it appears as though the person who's selling, that their shed and part of their existing septic system is also on town property. So that's what I observed today. So it's a little more complicated. I know we can't fully discuss it. I'm giving you guys the heads up that these are things that came in via email, but that we will be looking at them potentially in the next week or so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So from what I have heard tonight, I would say pretty easily that this has a lot of complications, and to kind of scoot this through next week seems unlikely, that there's going to be lots of questions for lots of people, engineers and conservation and to the homeowners. So I mean, we can put it on, but I don't see how any determination is going to be made, especially since the town manager says that conservation is meeting after our meeting next week and Board of Health is meeting after our meeting next week. So, it sounds like this is not a simple request. This is a very complex request for lots of reasons.
Board of Health should be meeting Monday, so they'll be meeting one day prior to our
still.
meeting, but.
Yeah, I concur, and I've seen my fair share of septic systems. The system that I saw today is very unique in that they have a tank in the back of the house, a leach field in the front of the house, and where they pump out of the tank appears to be on town property in front of the house. So it's very interesting. Todd's shaking his head like you have familiarity with this. I have never seen this, so it's definitely a unique system.
Well, if anything called for a site visit, it certainly sounds like this may require a site visit.
Yeah, I think this one's going to require us to get out there. So right now, the request is for us to have this next week. Again, my response is if they can provide us with the information, I'm more than willing to have Mr. Proctor in front of us next week and the homeowner just to explain this. But I think that there are several questions. That this isn't a clear cut, sure, just come across and do what you got to do. It's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, so we can put it on, but as long as they don't have any expectation it's going to get resolved and voted on next week.
Yeah.
Because even from what was just presented by yourself and the town manager, I don't see that happening.
Yep. So we'll hold off on adding it until we hear back from
And Mr. Chair, you had, or through you to the town manager, they've already met with conservation?
No.
Oh, they haven't?
They submitted their,
And they're going to meet tomorrow?
they meet November 16th.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's
But I've
after
been in
town meeting.
communication with the chair to let him know where,
So has if they're the 16th, then do they intend to do a site walk the preceding Saturday?
is that their standard
That's typically
practice?
what they do. We may want to piggyback on that if they intend to do it.
All right, if you can, would you mind finding out if they have
I
that
can.
scheduled? And we'll join them.
When
They
is it?
usually do
What day of
those,
the week? What day is
they
that?
usually do them at 9 or 10.
What time is it? What day is it?
Usually 8 or 8:30.
The 12th?
But
That'd be a no for me, dog.
I'll just pitch my tent there the night before.
It's the 12th?
Ooh, on a Saturday? Yeah. What was the typical attendance of those things?
Well, when I was on, they usually got about 50%. It's usually 3 or 4 would show up
Okay. That's early.
on a typical day.
All right. Okay. And that's all that I had under action items and committee reports. And I again apologize for the length of that. All right, the goal tonight, we're pretty close to it. Upcoming meeting scheduled November the 8th, November the 15th. So November 8th is our meeting next week. November 15th is special town meeting. The board is not planning on meeting for the remainder of November at this time, but that can change. Any public comments this evening from the town manager?
None, but I do have an announcement that didn't get made. And you have one, too?
I have one, too, yep.
Great. Just a reminder about the municipal aggregation program. This came up during the volunteer appreciation event. There was a question posed to Senator Cronin and Representative Kuchmarek about the muni
bill?
Muni bill, energy bill. And just a reminder to people that they have the ability to sign up for the mini ag program through town, which our current rate is 11.7 cents a kilowatt, which is a lot cheaper than the basic service rate from Unitil, which is 22.2 cents. That's extending beyond their normal winter range. It's going until July because initially it was going to be over 30 cents a kilowatt. So they prolonged that rate coverage. So anyone can opt in or out of the program. So I would encourage people, if you're looking for a different electricity supplier, this is just the electricity supply. It's not all the other transmission charges that are on your account, but to sign up for that program.
No, is it automatic for residents?
It is, you are automatically enrolled and you can opt out, but it's, so if you opted out at any point, you can opt back in, but you have to reach out and opt back in.
Okay. And that was really good. I saw the mailing and I was like,
Yep.
who's this fake thing, Town of Lunenburg care of?
And I have a colleague at work who lives in Bellingham who said that, I don't know if it's Eversource or National Grid, but their price went up to 34 cents a kilowatt hour, which is, again,
Insane.
10, 12 cents higher than even Unitil.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. That's crazy.
All right. I had an announcement that I forgot to read earlier today. So this is about recycling your reusables, and I'll read this again next week. So there's a drive-through reuse and recycling event that's happening at the Air Shirley Regional Middle High School, which is at 1 Hospital Road in Shirley. It's actually in Devens, but yeah,
No, it's not. Wait, which one are you, the high school?
the middle school.
Oh, the middle school.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually technically Devon's, all that's Devon's property, but anyway. So it's at the Air Shirley Regional Middle High School, 1 Hospital Road in Shirley, or Devon's. It's looks like Shirley, but it's technically Devon's. So anyway, it's going to be Saturday, November the 12th, from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. So again, Saturday, November 12th, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And items accepted, musical instruments in any condition. You can deposit craft, art, and office supplies, new or like new, electronics, and there are some fees that may apply for electronics, kitchen and household furnishings, bedding and towels, not beds though, bedding and towels, furniture, and then all items must be in clean and good working condition. And so this is also going to be on the town website, and we will announce this again next week.
Wait, what date is it again?
November the 12th, Saturday, November the 12th, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Air Shirley Regional Middle School. So if you go into Shirley and you go near their town offices,
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right across the street. So it's right there.
This is the one I went to that I talked about. That was fabulous.
Great.
You can bring anything there.
There
They
was
have,
a
they have them
cost,
stations set up.
right.
Well, it depends on what you're dropping off. Like a bike costs $10. It was a donation. But they have stations where you go to different things. Like the musical instruments are in one, materials are in one, household items are in another. So it's different organizations that are set up there to take all these collectibles.
Okay,
It's fabulous.
that's good. Well,
should
I
put
have
it
some
all over.
stuff.
Good endorsement.
I have some
Yeah, it's
stuff.
so great. I'm like, that's why I'm like, what date is it?
I need to put on my
Wait, I
calendar.
can't do a walkabout that day. I'm gonna be driving to the,
We should,
Waterwell's going to be probably at 8 o'clock, so.
this is
Yeah,
snarky,
well.
but this should be hung up at the donation bin at Walmart.
it should be because it's for stuff like that they leave out.
Apropos.
They
Actually-
haven't even put up anything up there.
No, they haven't. And I actually intercepted those guys cleaning it up last week, and
Oh, they cleaned it up last week
Well,
because
well,
it's already
they
dumped.
took the stuff away, and
Dump
they were,
again.
yeah, and I commented on, I just asked them, I'm like, hey, I see you guys just emptied the bin, like, you know, if you see that there's a whole bunch of trash all
Right.
over the ground, like, is part of you guys' deal to clean up around the bins?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, no. They said no. And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I just wanted, now that that subject has come up, I did note the other day that somebody was kind enough to donate a dying house plant, was put out there.
What do you? You couldn't just,
In a pot,
that's just crazy.
just in case anybody has a use for that.
Yeah, no one does.
Yeah.
All right, any other public comments this evening from the board?
No.
All right, any public comments from the public? All right. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, at 9:20, we are adjourned. Have a good evening.
Good night.